Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
You've seen it before. Those sad ASPCA commercials.
Bob Barker reminding you, helps control the pet population. Have your pets spayed or neutered.
Bob Barker and Drew Carey telling you to spay or neuter your pet. How did we get to this need to warn pet owners of the impending doom of not spaying and neutering? Why do we have animal shelters that would rather euthanize than keep animals until they are adopted? It may seem hard to believe, but the problem that led to all of this is domestication. We're going to go more in depth and see how domestication has caused problems in the animal world. What is domestication? Domestication is taming either animals or plants through a selection process in order to be accustomed to human control. In other words, making wild animals calm for our use. Many reasons for domestication are to make food, clothing, or to help with labor, but also as companions for ourselves. The process of domestication takes many generations and an extended period of time. Dogs were first domesticated from their relative the wolf in 15,000 BC. The cat was not domesticated until 7,500 BC. Even more common animals like the rat were not domesticated until the 1800s, while the hamster made its debut as a pet in the 1930s. Many more somewhat stranger animals have been domesticated over the years, such as foxes and skunks, and even more recently, chickens are being domesticated not for their eggs, but as pets. Of 148 mammal species, only about 15 have been domesticated, as outlined in the recent National Geographic article. DiscoveryNews.com posted an article about a new study which outlines that over the thousands of years of domestication, dogs have lost their wild problem-solving skills their relative the wolf still has. In the study, researchers used wild dingoes and prior wolf tests in the detour task. This is a test where both dogs and dingoes or wolves travel down a V-shaped path to get to food. There were barriers in which there were doors that swung in or out. The dogs and or dingoes were to figure out how to get to the food at the intersection of the V. The dingoes or wolves found food in 20 seconds, while the dogs pawed at the doors and barked frustrated, proving that dogs had lost their cognitive skills.
By now, you've heard the horrific story of Travis the chimp, who was shot and killed by police after he attacked a 55-year-old woman to within an inch of her life.
Some animals just are not good pets to have because they revert back to their wild instincts.
Isn't it a mistake to try and turn a chimp into a caricature of a human being?
Absolutely. They are wild animals, and by the time they turn the very young age of 8, they have the strength of 7 men. They're exceptionally dangerous.
A 5-year-old fighting off a vicious dog. Good evening to you. I'm Cherie Palello. That little girl is still in the hospital tonight with serious injuries, and neighbors.
Even animals we think we have control over can revert.
Monster apparently bit the girl on her legs, then grabbed her head in his jaws.
In recent years, humans have been shirking their responsibility as pet owners, either leaving the pets to their own in the wild or putting them in shelters. The problem is, in our quest to make the perfect pet, we've made them completely dependent on us. The animal shelters are filling up with animals, and because of an overpopulation, many animals are being euthanized to make room.
We see lots of reasons why our shelters are filling up lately. The economy is a big one. A lot of times people's houses are being foreclosed on and they're forced to move into smaller living quarters where often animals are not allowed and they have no other alternative. Also, there are kind of breed-specific restrictions sometimes too, where cities people aren't allowed to have certain types of dogs. or even certain apartment complexes, they're not allowed to have certain types of dogs too. There's not family members that are able to take them. So moving is a big reason that we see animal shelters filling up due to the economy. There's always going to be other reasons such as allergies or a death in the family. And oftentimes we are very much a last resort for people, and it's not a happy decision that they have to make. Oftentimes other shelters do have to euthanize due to space. They just don't have the space or resources to care for that many animals.
Even with the help of low-cost or no-cost spaying and neutering, why aren't humans taking care of the pets they worked so hard to acquire? Why is spaying and neutering so important? Megan Macknick of the Providence Animal Rescue League explains this.
A lot of times I think it might be, it may be a money issue, it may be an education issue, that they're not aware of the overpopulation problem and how full animal shelters are due to lack of spaying and neutering. It's so important because of overcrowding in shelters, and the overcrowding in shelters does often sometimes lead to euthanasia. So there really are just not enough homes in Rhode Island, in New England, in the country for as many animals that there are. So with more spay-neuter laws and regulations, then there will just be less euthanasia as a whole.
The ASPCA is an organization that helps fight against animal cruelty. This is an organization that rallies for spaying and neutering. There are also many organizations and no-kill animal shelters that are willing to protect animals from facing the world on their own.
ASPCA is a national organization, and we agree with their message. We're a humane society as well. Other humane societies in Rhode Island, as well as New England, I think it's important that we all stay connected. The staff here at Parle just recently went to a conference last weekend up in Maine, which was by the New England Federation of Humane Societies. So we feel education for us and staying connected to trends in animal welfare and knowing what other shelters are doing is extremely important, and I think we can only help each other. Sometimes if we have an animal that has been here for a very long time and might be getting looked over here for whatever reason, oftentimes we'll work with another shelter in the state, and they will go there and have a new surrounding and get adopted within a few weeks, sometimes a few days. We have also brought in animals here from other shelters. Sometimes out of state. If we have empty kennels, then we feel that it's our duty and with our mission to help them out and fill them and get those animals adopted.
Does Megan think domestication have to do with overcrowding of shelters?
We take in every animal here, including small animals and rabbits. And a lot of times people think that they're a rabbit and they will be okay on their own, and we'll just kind of let them go. If they've lived in a house and the only thing that they know is a cage and being around humans, then being in the wild, they're not going to be able to survive. And I think that can be said for some cats and dogs too.
In the end, is having man's best friend next to you worth harming their mental and possibly physical well-being? If it is to you, then make sure you at least take precaution to make sure your furry, scaly, or feathered friend is safe by educating yourself.